stopping by. And obviously, you're going to continue the Ickabog. Also, I would love to thank all of my new subscribers. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for subscribing. I appreciate you. Oh my gosh, I love you. Thank you so much. I am so happy that it's my channel is starting to get more subscribers and new subscribers. So thank you. So please don't forget to subscribe, comment, share, and follow me on Instagram. I always forget. I don't know why. I always forget to mention my Instagrams. I have two, and they are in my about. So don't forget to please follow me over there as well. One of them is OMY Cupcakes, because I am a self-taught baker, and I enjoy making cupcakes. All I do is just cupcakes, not cakes. I've been baking cupcakes since I was in high school, and I love it. So follow me over there. And also I have an OMY's Labyrinth one, which in that one I share some Marshalls, TJ Maxx, Ray Dunn, and sometimes I do some Dollar Tree posts, but mostly is Ray Dunn for the different type of holidays. So please don't forget to follow me over there. I appreciate it. Okay, so we're gonna continue with the Ickabog, and I am gonna continue doing the 3 chapters. We're almost done, and I had said it was 63 chapters, but it's 64. So we're almost done. So I can't wait. I tapped them, so I already they're in the 3 groups each. So I think I have maybe 2 more. Yeah, maybe 2 more sections or videos to do with it. But I am really excited to finish this, because in the last, I think it was the last video of the Ickabog, I had said that I was trying to think of which other book I should record, and I've been going around and around, and I'm looking at my books, and I think I chose one. So I am really excited to later on tell you which book I'm gonna be reading next. It was a book first, and then they made it into a movie, if I'm not mistaken. And I really love this movie. It's one of my favorite ones. So I'm excited, but I'm not gonna tell you just yet. So you're gonna have to stay tuned and see when I will reveal the actual book that I am going to do the next series of videos. It's not gonna take as much as these. It's thinner book, really thin. Even though the chapters in this book are really they're fairly short. I think they're getting longer now as the book is ending. But in the meantime, I just want to finish it already. And now that there has been a gap, they skipped section, like what's it called? Flash forward. Is it flash forward? I think it's flash forward. That there are. So I'm just curious now. I just want to finish it. And you guys can comment anytime. Okay. I'm gonna take the cover off because I always do. Okay. Chapter 1. Slowly and carefully, Miss Beamish made her way toward the king's private apartments, holding the little wooden foot so tightly in her hand that its sharp claws dug into her palm. At last she reached the scarlet carpeted corridor leading to Fred's rooms. Now she could hear laughter coming from behind the doors. Miss Beamish rightly guessed that Fred hadn't been told about the Ickabog attack on the outskirts of Showsville, because she was sure he wouldn't be laughing if he had. However, somebody was clearly with the king, and she wanted to see Fred alone. As she stood there, wondering what was best to do, the door ahead opened with a gasp. Miss Beamish dived behind a long velvet curtain and tried to stop it swaying. Spittleworth and Flapoon were laughing and joking with the king as they bade him good night. Excellent joke, Your Majesty. Why, I think I've split my pantaloons, coughed Flapoon. We shall have to rechristen you King Fred the Funny, sire, chuckled Spittleworth. Miss Beamish held her breath and tried to suck in her tummy. She heard the sound of Fred's door closing. The two lords stopped laughing at once. Blithering idiot, said Flapoon in a low voice. I've bet clever blobs of Würzburg cheese, muttered Spittleworth. Can't you take a turn entertaining him tomorrow? Grumbled Flapoon. I'll be busy with the tax collectors until 3, said Spittleworth. But if... Both lords stopped talking. Their footsteps also ceased. Miss Beamish was still holding her breath, her eyes closed, praying that they hadn't noticed the bulge in the curtain. Well, good night, Spittleworth, said Flapoon's voice. Yes, sleep well, Flapoon, said Spittleworth. Very softly, her heart beating very fast, Miss Beamish let out her breath. It was all right. The two lords were going to bed, and yet she couldn't hear footsteps. Then suddenly she had no time to draw breath into her lungs. The curtain was ripped back before she could cry out. Flapoon's large hand had closed over her mouth, and Spittleworth had seized her wrist. The two lords dragged Miss Beamish out of her hiding place and down the nearest set of stairs, and while she struggled they tried to shout. She couldn't make a sound through Flapoon's thick fingers, nor could she wriggle her free. At last they pulled her into the same blue parlor where she'd once kissed her dead husband's hand. Do not scream, Spittleworth warned her, pulling out a short dagger he'd taken to wearing even inside the palace, or the king will need a new pastry chef. He gestured to Flapoon to take his hand away from Miss Beamish's mouth. The first thing she did was take a gasp of breath because she felt like fainting. You made an outsized lump in the curtain, cook, sneered Spittleworth. Exactly what were you doing lurking there, so close to the king, after the kitchen's half closed? Miss Beamish might have made up some silly lie. Of course, she could have pretended she wanted to ask the King Fred what kinds of cakes he'd like her to make tomorrow, but she knew the two lords wouldn't believe her. So instead, she held out her hand clutching the Ickabog's foot and opened her fingers. I know, she said quietly, what you're up to. The two lords moved closer and peered down at her palm, and the perfect tiny replica of the huge feet the dark footers were using. Spittleworth and Flapoon looked at each other, and then at Miss Beamish, and the pastry chef could think, when she saw their expression, was, "Run, Bert, run." Chapter 43, Bert and the Guard. The candle on the table side, Bert burned slowly downward while he watched the minute hand creep around the clock face. He told himself his mother would definitely come home soon. She'd walk in any minute, pick up his half-darned sweater as though she never dropped it, and tell him what had happened when she saw the king. Then the minute hand seemed to speed up when Bert would have done anything to make it slow down. 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes left. Bert got to his feet and moved to the window, and he looked up in the dark street. There was no sign of his mother returning. But wait, his heart leapt. He'd seen movement on the corner for a few shining seconds. Bert was sure he was about to see Miss Beamish step into the patch of moonlight, smiling as she caught sight of his anxious face at the window. And then his heart seemed to drop like a brick into his stomach. It wasn't Miss Beamish who was approaching, but Major Roach, accompanied by 4 large members of Ickabog Defense Brigade, all carrying torches. Bert leapt back from the window, snatched up the sweater on the table, and sprinted through his bedroom. To his bedroom, he grabbed his shoes, and his father in metal forced up the bedroom window. Clambered out of it, then gently slid the window closed from outside. As he dropped down into the vegetable patch, he heard Major Roach banging on the front door. Then a rough voice said, "I'll check the back." Bert threw himself flat in the earth behind the row of beetroots, smeared his fair hair with soil, and lay very still in the darkness. Through his closed eyelids, he saw flickering light. A soldier held his torch high in the hopes of seeing Bert running away across other people's gardens. The soldier didn't notice that the earth shape of Bert concealed behind the beetroot's leaves, which threw long swaying shadows. "Well, he hasn't gone out of this way," shouted the soldier. There was a crash, and Bert knew Roach had broken down the front door. He listened to the soldiers opening cupboards and wardrobes. Bert remained utterly still, and the earth, because torchlight was still shining through his closed eyelids. Maybe he cleared out before his mother went to the palace. "Well, I've got to find him," growled the familiar voice of Major Roach. His son, the Ickabog's first victim. If Bert Beamish starts telling the world the monster's lie, people will listen. Spread out and search. He can't have gone far. And if you catch him," said Roach, as his men's heavy footsteps sounded across the Beamish's wooden floorboards, "kill him. We'll work out our stories later." Bert lay completely flat and still, listening to the men running away up and down the street, and then a cool part of Bert's brain said, "Move." He put his father's medal around his neck, pulled on the half-darned sweater, and snatched up his shoes, then began to crawl through the earth until he reached a neighboring fence, where he tunneled out enough dirt to let him wriggle beneath it. He kept crawling until he reached a cobbled street, but he could still hear the soldier's voice echoing through the night as they banged on doors, demanding to search houses, asking people whether they've seen Bert Beamish, the pastry chef's son. He heard himself described as a dangerous traitor. Bert took another handful of earth and smeared it over his face. Then he got to his feet and, crouching low, darted into a dark doorway across the street. A soldier ran past, but Bert was now so filthy that he was well camouflaged against the dark door, and the men noticed nothing. When the soldier had disappeared, Bert ran barefoot from the doorway to doorway, carrying his shoes, hiding in the shadow alcoves, and edging ever closer to the city within the city. However, when they drew near, he saw a guard keeping watch, and before Bert could think of a plan, he had to slide behind a statue of King Richard the Righteous, because Roach and another soldier were approaching. "Have you seen Bert Beamish?" they shouted at the guard. "What? The pastry chef's son?" asked the man. Roach seized the front of the man's uniform and shook him as the terrier shakes a rabbit. "Of course, the pastry chef's son. Have you let him through these gates? Tell me." "No, I haven't," said the guard. "And what's the boy done to have you lot chasing him?" "He's a traitor," snarled Roach, "and I'll personally shoot anyone who helps him." Understood, said the guard. Roach released the man, and he and his companion ran off again, their torches casting swinging pools of light on all the walls, until they were allowed once more by the darkness. Bert watched the guard straighten his uniform and shake his head. Bert hesitated. Bert hesitated then, knowing this might cost him his life, crept out of his hiding place. So thoroughly had Bert camouflaged himself with it all the earth that the guard didn't realize anyone was beside him, until he saw the whites of Bert's eyes in the moonlight and let out a yelp of terror. "Please," whispered Bert, "please don't give me away. I need to get out of here." From beneath his sweater, he pulled at his father's heavy silver medal, brushed earth from the surface, and showed the guard, "I'll give you this. It's real silver if you just let me out through the gates and don't tell anyone you've seen me." "I'm not a traitor," said Bert. "I haven't betrayed anyone, I swear." The guard was an older man with a stiff gray beard. He considered the earth-covered Bert for a moment or two before saying, "Keep the medal, son." He opened the gate just wide enough for Bert to slide through. "Thank you," gasped Bert. "Stick to the back roads," advised the guard, "and trust no one. Good luck." Chapter 44. Miss Beamish Fights Back. While Bert was slipping out of the city gates, Miss Beamish was being shunted into the cell in the dungeons by Lord Spittleworth, and a cracked, ready voice nearby sang the national anthem in time to hammer blows. "Be quiet," bellowed Spittleworth towards the wall. The singing stopped. "When I finish this foot, my lord," said the broken voice, "will you let me out to see my daughter?" Yes, you'll see your daughter," Spittleworth called back, rolling his eyes. "Now, be quiet, because I want to talk to your neighbor." "Well, before you get started, my lord," said Miss Beamish, "I've got a few things I want to say to you." Spittleworth and Flapoon started at a plump little woman. Never had they placed anyone in the dungeons who looked so proud and unconcerned at being slung in this dank, cold place. Spittleworth was reminded of Lady Islanda, who was still shut up in his library and still refusing to marry him. He'd never imagined a cook could look so haughty as a lady. Firstly, said Miss Beamish, "if you kill me, the king will know. He'll notice I'm not making his pastries. He can taste the difference." "That's true," said Spittleworth with a cruel smile. "However, as the king will believe that you've been killed by the Ickabog, he'll simply have to get used to his pastries tasting different, won't he? My house lies in the shadows of the palace walls. countered Miss Beamish. It will be impossible to fake an Ickabog attack there without waking up 100 witnesses. That's easily solved, said Spittleworth. We'll say you were foolish enough to make a nighttime stroll down the banks of the River Fluma, where the Ickabog was having a drink. Which might have worked, said Miss Beamish, making up a story off the top of your head, if I hadn't left certain instructions to be carried out if word gets out I've been killed by the Ickabog. What instructions, and whom have you given them to? Said Flapoon. Her son, I dare say, said Spittleworth, but he'll soon be in our power. Make a note, Flapoon. We will kill the cook once we've killed her son. In the meantime, said Miss Beamish, pretending she hadn't felt an icy stab of terror at the thought of Bert falling into Spittleworth's hands, you might as well equip this cell properly with a stove and all my regular implements, so I can keep making cakes for the king. Yes, why not, said Spittleworth slowly. They all enjoy your pastries. Miss Beamish, you may continue to cook for the king until your son is caught. Good, said Miss Beamish. I'm not going to need assistance. I suggest I train up some of my fellow prisoners who can at least whisk the egg whites and line my baking trays. That will require you to feed the poor fellows a little more. I notice as you marched me through here that some of them look like skeletons. I can't have them eating all of my raw ingredients because they're starving. And lastly, said Miss Beamish, giving herself a sweeping glance, I shall need a comfortable bed and some clean blankets if I am to get enough sleep to produce cakes of the quality the king demands. It's his birthday coming up too. He'll be expecting something very special. Spittleworth eyed this most surprising captive for a moment or two, then said, Doesn't it alarm you, madam, to think that you and your child will soon be dead? Oh, if there's one thing you'll learn at cookery school, said Miss Beamish with a shrug, burned crusts and soggy bases happen to the best of us. Roll up your sleeves and start something else, I say. No point of moaning over what you can't fix. As Spittleworth couldn't think of a good retort to this, he beckoned to Flapoon, and the two lords left the cell, the door clanging shut behind them. As soon as they'd gone, Miss Beamish stopped pretending to be brave and dropped down onto the hard bed, which was the only piece of furniture in her cell. She was shaking all over, and for a moment she was afraid that she was going to have hysterics. However, a woman didn't rise to be the charge of the king's kitchen in the city of the finest pastry makers on earth without being able to manage her own nerves. Miss Beamish took a deep, steadying breath, and then hearing and reading voice next door break into the national anthem again, pressed her ear to the wall and began to listen for the place where the noise was coming into her cell. At last she found a crack near the ceiling. Standing on her bed, she called softly, Daniel Dovedale. I know that's you. This is Bertha Beamish. But the broken voice only continued to sing. Mrs. Beamish sank down on her bed, wrapped her arms around herself, closed her eyes, and prayed with every part of her aching heart that wherever Bert was, he was safe. Okay. Things are getting a little tougher. I mean, it's expected, especially towards the end of the book. Things are gonna get unraveled very soon. Very, very, very soon. Very soon. Very soon. Thank you so much for share, give me a thumbs up, and I will continue. And again, thank you so much for my new subscribers.